The Oversight Committee's mission statement is that we exist to secure two fundamental principles. First, Americans have a right to know that the money Washington takes from them is well spent. And second, Americans deserve an efficient, effective government that works for them. Our duty on the Government Oversight and the Government Oversight Reform, on the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, it's only my committee, is to protect these rights. Our solemn responsibility is to hold government accountable to taxpayers, because taxpayers have a right to know what they get from their government. We will work tirelessly in partnership with citizen watchdogs to deliver the facts to the American people, bring genuine reform to the Federal bureaucracy. This is the mission of the government. This is the mission of Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Today's hearing continues the committee's effort to examine crises brought on by out-of-control spending and mounting debt at the State level. And let me assure you, that is not to say every State is out of control, but virtually every State in the Union and many localities have increased their debt load at a time in which debt service is at an all-time low. The American people are well aware of the fiscal crisis Washington faces on a national level. They are ready for Congress to cut spending, and even President Obama has lauded recent spending cuts championed by the House Republicans. What is less known is that the severe fiscal problems that some of our States and municipal governments face. Already this year, our Financial Services Subcommittee, under the leadership of Chairman Patrick McHenry, has done a great service by highlighting problems created by some irresponsible spending. I thank Chairman McHenry for his efforts. The facts we have learned from the subcommittee are telling. Currently, States face a combined budget shortfall of roughly $112 billion for fiscal year 2012, an amount equal to approximately one-fifth of their budgets. That, if nothing is done, will pile on more debt for the future. The evidence why this has occurred is clear. Since 1990, State and local government spending has increased 70% faster than inflation. When the recession hit, State and local tax revenues simply no longer sustained that growth. Looming just around the corner, unfunded or underfunded pension liabilities pose a daunting threat to State and municipal budgets. This burdens taxpayers with an estimated $3 trillion in debt. I say estimated because nobody knows the full exposure that taxpayers have due the fact that the bond markets are not transparent and the reporting rules do not force adequate disclosure. Additionally, as we have seen here, when we have talked about the correct amounts to be withheld for our postal carriers, we find that there is up to $5.5 billion of up to $6.5 trillion, up to six. This is not on the script, folks, so bear with me. Up to $6.5 billion of discrepancy between two opposing sides on this issue. Indeed, over the past 20 years, State and local governments have promised to government workers that they knew they could not keep in some cases, hoping that future wealth would continue to propel them. Today we have two governors with us, and we are pleased to welcome Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker and Vermont Governor Peter Shumlin. They come from two very different states, one larger, one smaller, one in the midst of a tough downturn that may in fact continue for a very long time as many of the core industries that have created wealth begin to change, and that transition may be long and painful. Vermont, on the other hand, a wonderful state filled with a great deal of industry that may be facing challenges today, but are likely to be slightly less systemic than what Wisconsin faces. This doesn't change the fact that both governors are dealing with the issues of shortfalls in their own way, and today we look forward to hearing how they are going to retain the viability of their state long after their terms have ended. Unionized Federal workers don't even have collective bargaining rights. Governor Walker's bold reforms seem reasonable to those of us in Washington who understand that our retirement and health care system at the Federal level is not subject to collective bargaining, that in fact it is based on a single system, uniform throughout the Federal workforce, and not debatable as to withholding or as to the benefits. That's not to say that Federal workers don't have a good program. They do. But their program has been based on a long list of requests considered by Congress and funded. So as we deal with Federal issues, hopefully we deal with State issues who in many cases have less room to maneuver, are looking for more room to maneuver, and believe that they can achieve it through changes in their laws. Lastly, the insolvency of Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, most often called the pigs, tells us that States within a greater union can in fact be a challenge for the Union. The independent countries of Europe that belong to the European Union are more loosely configured than our own States. That means that if we have insolvency in 3, 4, 5 of our States, we have a greater challenge to our common nation than does the European Union. And yet, the European Union has been constantly trying to figure out ways to maintain these States within the European Union, help them bail themselves out, and, in fact, insist that they change policies that have gotten into this problem. We are not here today to intervene in the sovereign States that are before us. We are here to understand what they are doing in self-help. With that, I recognize the Ranking Member for his opening.